Hello and welcome to JLK. I'm Joseph.
This is Lily.
And I'm Katie. And today, we're going to be looking at a podcast that attempts to understand the court system in America and how it functions for cases from misdemeanors all the way to murders.
In Season 3 of Sara Koenig's podcast, Serial, she highlights the Cleveland justice system and the smaller everyday cases that don't make it to the public's eye. Throughout the course of a year, she followed hundreds of cases from different angles with the Justice Center.
Now, Koenig takes a unique approach by focusing on every aspect of the justice system, from judges to prosecutors to defendants and even police officials.
This podcast gained fame from the first season, which it followed Adnan Syed's case, a high school student who was convicted for the murder of his ex-girlfriend. Adnan claimed that he was falsely accused, so Koenig analyzed every detail of his case to try and prove Adnan innocent after spending over 15 years in jail.
After the rise in popularity of the podcast, more seasons were created, leading to Season 3, where she and her team followed the Cleveland justice system to get an understanding of how the justice system works in America as a whole.
Now, Season 3's setup is entirely different from Season 1. Season 1 is similar to the setup one would expect from a true crime podcast. One singular case that is followed from beginning to end, told in narrative fashion. However, Season 3 follows a new case each episode with the ultimate goal to understand how the good and bad comes from the justice system. One case that Koenig follows is one of Devon Holmes. Holmes was convicted of the murder of a 5-month-old. He sat in jail for about a year until the police found more evidence that proved him innocent. This following clip goes into how the justice system failed Holmes and how this is common in many mistakes, because each level of the court blames another for the mistakes that occurred.
It's unsatisfying, I know. The crime isn't solved. That's unsatisfying, obviously. But also, Devon sat accused for a year. That shouldn't have happened. But when I asked around the Justice Center about it, people said, yeah, that's a shame, but at least they corrected it. No one was demanding an inquiry into what went wrong or yowling for reform. No hand-wringing. It was more resignation. What are you going to do? Judges say they can't control what cases the prosecutors bring to them. Prosecutors say they're relying on the detectives. Detectives say their information is only as good as what the public coughs up. Can they help it if people lie or withhold? I get it. When no one feels fully responsible for the outcome, when blame is spread out and diluted, a situation like Devon's becomes easier to shrug off. What are you going to do? Starts to feel like an answer, rather than an urgent question.
Throughout the season, and this specific clip from episode 5, how do you think Koenig's voice and opinion affect the storyline?
Personally, I think Koenig does a very good job of being unbiased. I think as a whole, she does want to highlight the unethical processes of the court, but she also gives credibility to the court and judges by noting that the system is flawed, and doing the right thing isn't always feasible. She states facts through clips and does not provide her personal opinion, only what she observes.
I believe she does give her personal opinion. In many episodes, she includes her reaction to information on a personal level. This is shown in episode 3, where she states whether or not she personally likes the Cleveland Police Patrolmen's Association head, Steve Loomis. I do agree, however, that there is still a level of unbiasedness because she states why she thinks this and allows the audience to create their own opinion on Loomis.
Yeah, but throughout the season, though, Koenig spends significantly less time interviewing the judicial workers than she does the defendants and the defendants' families. Since more time is spent hearing how each court case affects the defendants, it's really easy for the audience to begin to blame the officials, when in reality they have regulations that they have to follow, and even though they might not agree with it, that's what they have to do.
I would have to disagree with that because Koenig has an entire episode about Judge Gall, interviewing him and featuring several audio clips from his cases.
Okay, yes, she does follow Judge Gall for an entire episode. However, she shows how he has many unethical aspects of the way he chooses to talk and ultimately charge the defendants. She lets him explain why he does what he does, but I do agree with Joseph that there is a sort of bias for the non-judicial workers featured in the episode.
Yes, but I agree, but Koenig does a great job playing the devil's advocate, showing that every judge in the court has a different way of doing things. Also, that as much as we want the justice system to be black and white, every person has their own interpretation of a law, which leads to a lot of gray area within rulings. Koenig does a good job of highlighting that to add to credibility of the judges and other judicial officials.
So what elements of the season do you think have the greatest impact on the audience?
For me, it was Koenig's ability to keep the audience engaged while going over trivial cases that the Cleveland court system sees. In many of the episodes, she leaves the audience with a cliffhanger at the end of the episode and uses the suspense to bring them back week after week.
Yeah, I agree. This season of Serial, Koenig does a great job of keeping the audience engaged and wanting to know her overall synopsis of the justice system. I believe she does this by allowing the audience to get to know the people of interest in each episode on a level of personal understanding. By doing this, she allows the audience to be invested in what happens to each person and feel empathy for them when the ruling is final on their case.
Yes, exactly. The use of pathos by Koenig is vital to this podcast.
Yeah.
Without getting the audience invested in the people of the story, it'd be a lot less intriguing and definitely a lot less popular.
I definitely agree with you on that note. So how do you guys think the design of the podcast affects the audience reception of the content? Do you think there are certain elements within the intentional organization of the material itself that keeps the audience engaged?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the way that she includes audio clips from the actual cases in the courthouse creates a genuine understanding of the people of interest. Instead of relying on Koenig's own perception, you get firsthand evidence of how the officials and defendants interact with each other. I think designing the podcast this way really improved the credibility of it, just because you can't misinterpret an audio recording.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the audio clips from the courtrooms not only excite the audience by giving them a firsthand witness to the actual interactions, but it also helps them decide for themselves how they interpret the cases instead of having some narrator's biased way on their perception.
100%. So moving on, how do you guys think that the credibility of season 3 differs from most true crime podcasts?
A lot of other true crime podcasts or shows are made to be entertaining. They're more of a story than a true account of events. But this season was real and raw. It brought light to the court system that the majority of Americans will never witness firsthand. No one else besides Koenig and her team has been able to show their audience what the justice system really does.
Definitely. I think the producers never actually had the sole intention of providing entertainment. I think they primarily wanted to show the world how corrupt even small cases are in America, and that the truth within the situations are intriguing enough to look into.
Exactly. So how do you guys feel about the way that Koenig set this season up? Because it definitely differs from most true crime podcasts.
I think it was risky. Part of the interest in the crime genre is in connection to the cases and the mystery behind them. This is how Serial became the podcast titan it is. However, this season took a step back, looking more into the technical side of cases. I think that the average person is not used to the monotony of the justice system and could easily become bored with the story if done poorly. Koenig does a good job of spicing it up. She tries to keep the true crime aspects that are familiar to listeners while also trying to educate them on the problems in the system.
Wow, that was a great analysis. And yeah, I definitely agree with you. I was very surprised when I listened to the first episode of season 3. I was expecting to get the background on one particular case that we were going to follow over the season, but instead Koenig did a deep dive on the Cleveland Justice Center and every sector a part of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. As a whole, season 3 was super refreshing take on what I've always perceived true crime as. Koenig does a beautiful job of getting the true narrative from every angle of a court case, and the way the producers tackle so many cases is so interesting and really helps provide an accurate view of the justice system in Cleveland.
Overall, I really enjoyed season 3 of Serial, especially since the production value of this series is so incredible. I think it was an excellent choice to have one piece from the same art studio for every episode. It intrigued me every time I listened to a new episode because I was excited to see how that image was going to play into the story. Also, I think the producers making the decision to use the music from one composer, that is Adam Dorn, created a similarity between all the episodes that allows them to be cohesive. My co-producers are making fun of my hand motions right now.
Yeah, but no, on that topic, the music throughout this season was incredible. It allowed for the transitions in the storyline to flow seamlessly while also alluding to what was going to happen next in the episode.
Yeah, so that's all we have for JOK this week. If you want more information on Serial Season 3, you can find it on Apple and Google Podcasts, the Serial website, and Spotify. Have a great day and catch us next week for new content.
Bye!